You're taking care of business with Marty and Clay on Bakersfield's right choice for Saturday Talk. Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.
We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. Winston Churchill once said that Americans always do the right thing after they've exhausted all other possibilities. Our guest by phone is Gary Berntsen, the former CIA commander on the ground in Afghanistan. Clay, you had a question for Gary?
You know, Gary, first I want to apologize because we just do not have enough time to ask all the questions that we want to ask. I wish we had a couple hours, and as Gary's going to tell you, as Marty's going to tell you in a minute, we want to have you back on, hopefully. But do you think that because of all the news talk shows, the radio talk shows, that we're giving out too much information that's being picked up by our enemies?
I don't think that's a problem. I think that it's good to have an informed public. I'm a news junkie myself. I think that it's just important here in the United States that we adhere to the principles that we were founded on. We follow the Constitution that was written here. We balance our. I'll tell you, the greatest danger right now is financial danger to the U.S. Sound economic policy is national security. We cannot become a nation that is bankrupt. And if we are bankrupt, we won't be able to fulfill the things that we need to do around the world, and the world will become a much more dangerous and chaotic place.
I think when we talk about security, it always takes me back to Israel, and those people are sitting there surrounded by enemies. And are we going to come to their defense and support them if a problem arises?
I think that the ties between the two nations are such that we will. I think that this particular administration's relationships with Israel have been chilly, but there are strong ties between the two countries, and I can't see us abandoning them.
Gary, what about, you and I talked about this last week, about Israel in relationship to Iran. I mean, sooner or later, Israel's going to have to do something because they're not going to sit there and let a nuclear Iran wave sabers at them.
Yeah, I mean, the Iranians are the great spoilers in the Middle East, and Iran has provided massive funding to Hezbollah and Hamas, the enemies of Israel. They have been the spoilers anytime there's any effort toward peace, and we're going to have to come to terms with the Iranians. We're going to have to convince the Iranians that they will pay a price for this, not just an economic price. What was unfortunate was that the Obama administration didn't do more to help the Green Revolution there. Talk about a missed opportunity, my goodness. But he wanted to be fair and to step back and stand out of this thing. What a novice, what an amateur. And however, he had absolutely no problems encouraging the people in Egypt to demonstrate against Mubarak, who'd been a long-time ally. I mean, it's incomprehensible, some of the things that this particular White House does.
Amazing.
Well, Obama appears to be an extremely weak president. He can't seem to make a decision. He's relied on Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, to get things done, and then he takes credit for the things that they do.
Yeah, he has. I'll be honest with you. He has some smart people in the National Security Council. He's got some smart guys in there. He's just got to listen to them. And I know some of the people that are there. They're some of them are sound. However, his worldview is not the same view that I have. I think that, and I think it goes back to the campaign when he ran for the presidency. President Obama said, we're going to remake America. I love America, but I'm going to remake it. That's like saying to your wife, honey, I really, really love you, but I'm going to remake you. Try that when you get home tonight.
Well, Obama ran, when he got into Congress, into the Senate, he ran for president for the 2 years he was there, and he's been running for president for the 2 years he's been in the White House.
It is. We are in the, we're in the MTV, generation of politics. It's unfortunate, and I make no, effort to conceal the fact that I'm a Republican. And there's a whole number of candidates on the Republican side that I think that would be, much better in the White House than the current occupant.
Well, the problem we have is that all we're doing is running for president. We're not really accomplishing anything.
The great danger, of course, is the economy. It is the economy, ladies and gentlemen. It is managing. It's getting ourselves in the black financially. It's about reducing the national deficit. If we bankrupt ourselves, we will not be able to defend ourselves adequately.
Yeah, this is true. We're having a conversation with Gary Berntsen, the former CIA commander on the ground in Afghanistan, on Taking Care of Business, Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. Gary, I want to shift gears just for a second, okay? Because this question came up a couple times when I was talking to people about this show. The obvious question is, was there weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? And do you think we were justified in any case to do what we did?
Well, first off, Saddam first had weapons of mass destruction in the early 1980s. He had a nuclear program that at the Osiris reactor at Tuatha that was destroyed by the Israelis. In 1994, after he had been defeated in 91, he constructed a biological weapons program in 94 that we found out about it when his two son-in-laws defected to the Jordanians. So he had done this twice before. Saddam was unique in that whereas everyone else in the world was trying to convince anyone else that they didn't have weapons of mass destruction, Saddam, before he was executed, confessed that I wanted everyone to think I had a program because I was more afraid of the Iranians than anything else, and I thought that would keep them out, and keep them from invading me. He did everything possible to convince us he did have them. That was from his own words. And his own people didn't know the truth.
Well, he succeeded.
He did succeed. He miscalculated on a grand scale twice, in 91 and then again later in 203.
It's funny. I've had this discussion with friends of mine about Iraq, and my point of view is I tell them, look, it's a little bit like the kid who walks up to you and says, kicks you in the shin and says, hey, when I grow up, I'm going to, beat the living you-know-what out of you. So, you have a choice. Do you defend yourself at that time, or do you wait till a guy's big enough to do it?
Yeah, he clearly, he would have reconstructed WMD at the first opportunity. Mm-hmm. He would have. Yeah. Saddam himself was a weapon of mass destruction, and I was one that supported his removal. I was unhappy about the fact that while we were doing that we sort of, undersourced Afghanistan. Had we continued to source Afghanistan sufficiently, I wouldn't have been so unhappy. Because now we're going to be dealing with Afghanistan for another decade at least.
Well, that's the
People
thing.
talk about leaving in 2014, ladies and gentlemen. We're not leaving in 2014, believe me.
No, because we didn't do what we should have done when you had them against the wall in 2001.
Yeah, we're not closing Gitmo either.
Yep, of course we're not.
Yeah. You in your book, I think it was in your... No, actually it was an interview you did. You had mentioned the fact that on the Pakistani border, because, a lot of people wonder, well, if we have a fairly good idea where he is, why haven't we gone in there? But I guess there are areas in that Pakistani border that the Pakistani army hasn't gone to in 20 or 30 years?
40 years. Pakistani army had not been inside the federally administered tribal areas until about a year and a half ago. It had been 40 years since they had actually entered there. These Pathan tribal men are heavily armed, have fortresses all over the place, crew-served weapons, hundreds of men under arms. And when the Pakistani army went in there with 50,000 guys, they took 1,000 casualties in the first 6 months. So this is not for the faint of heart, and this is why the United States is using a very, very effective program of drone attacks in the federally administered tribal areas. And actually, it was 2 days ago they had a big hit, and of course, even the Pakistani government was complaining about it, but the Americans didn't back up. They stated that the 24 individuals killed in that attack were actually doing terrorist planning, and it wasn't like a stamp club meeting.
Gary, we keep moving around the globe, but going back to Lebanon, where are the rebels or the anti-Gaddafi forces getting their weaponry?
Well, they seized a lot of weapons from armories initially, and some of those armories were blown up by Gaddafi. They're not as well armed as people think they are, and actually, in one of the cities 2 days ago, they actually were finally overrun when they ran out of ammunition. I think it was Zawiya, the city. They ran out of ammunition, and finally Gaddafi's people came in, closed in on them. So they're going to have to be resupplied at some point, and that is something that one of the mistakes that the guerrillas, the rebels have made is that the British, about 10 days ago, sent a team of individuals. They were MI6, possibly, Intel, and someone from their foreign office in to talk to the rebels, and the rebels were so arrogant that they said, well, you didn't ask for permission to come here, and they booted them out. Had they not booted those British out, the British probably would have helped them get organized and would have probably positioned them to receive weapon shipments. but the rebels were arrogant and foolish for what they did, and that the British Defense Minister Liam Fox really was pretty smart in doing what he did, and one couldn't count on the rebels being so stupid.
Hey, Gary, do you see a book deal in the future for Jawbreakers?
What, for a film?
Yes.
Well, yes.
I mean, a film deal.
We're working that. We actually had it sold once, but we will eventually get this sold and made into a film.
Great. Gary, thank you so much for being with us. It's a great show. We'd love to have you back if possible.
Sure. Great. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Thank you, Gary. That's it for this week on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. We will see you in 167 hours.